Today I'm reviewing the 2007 Toyota Orion Sportivo in an attempt to explore exactly what the Sportivo badge is all about. This car's boot's going to be more than big enough to suit most people because while it does have a big load lip there to lift things over, it also has a nice wide opening as well, so it's not going to be too bad when it comes to loading and unloading your cargo. Now the back row of seats are absolutely fine in every way but height, because you can easily fit 3 people across here, but if they're over 6 foot then they're really going to struggle for height. Now it's a different story in the front. I've got plenty of room for both width and height, and the steering wheel's got plenty of adjustment in and out and up and down as well. And if you're taking a bottle of water with you, then there are a few places to put it. You've got enough room for 2 bottles there. You can fit 2 bottles underneath this armrest, which is also sliding adjustable as well. And then you can fit 2 bottles in the glove box too. Now all the controls for this car are nice and logically laid out. You've got the radio up top and then the aircon down the bottom, and then some of the main controls are also on the steering wheel. However, some controls like the radio tuning can be a bit of a reach for some people. Now that we're driving it, it's time to find out why Toyota has called this the Sportivo model. And from driving it, I can tell that it's probably got to do with the fact that this is the top of the range model. That's probably what they mean by Sportivo, because they surely couldn't mean sportiness or a sporty driving experience with this, because it just isn't. It still feels like a normal Orion, just with more power, because it's got that really light and lifeless steering to it. It certainly isn't a dynamic steering system, because it relays almost zero feel of the tyres to your hands. However, that does mean that it's nice and light around town, and they've obviously gone for the smooth, progressive power delivery with the accelerator pedal, because there's pretty much no feel through that either. The brakes on the other hand are pretty good. They feel nice and solid despite having that dead zone at the top of the pedal. And I never thought I'd say this, but I am grateful that this car isn't automatic, because it does have the foot operated handbrake or parking brake, which means if this were a manual and you had to do a hill start, then you'd probably end up having to have 3 legs to do that. And then when it comes to the responsiveness of the power, it's the transmission that lets the car down, because it is the single clutch 6-speed automatic. And then when it's in drive and you go to overtake someone, there's a massive pause from when you get the power. And a few times today that pause has been about 1.5 seconds. So when you really need your power, it's not always going to be there. Even when you put it into manual mode, it still takes its time changing gears. The ride, on the other hand, is pretty good. It seems to be pretty compliant, and it seems to filter out all the finer undulations in the road, so it's only the bigger bumps that you really have to worry about. The seats, on the other hand, are pretty hard, but they are adjustable in pretty much every which way. I still wouldn't like to do long journeys in this car. And then driving around town, the tyre roar is pretty much unnoticeable. But then when you get up onto the freeway, it really does become quite intrusive, which was completely unexpected for this car for me. So when it comes to the Sportivo part of the car, pretty much all they mean is that it's the top of the range car and it's got more power. It's got exactly 200 kilowatts to be precise, with 336 newton meters of torque. And what that means is the car can get to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.4 seconds from a standing start. One thing I noticed when you're putting the power down hard is the car can get quite a lot of torque steer, simply because it's not regulating the amount of power that's going to each of the 2 front wheels. But the driving position for this car seems to be pretty good, because the seat's not too high and the steering wheel's right at your chest. And then obviously you've got this sliding armrest, which I really like. And while the power delivery doesn't have the quickest response, it is really quite smooth. And then being a 3.5 litre naturally aspirated 6-cylinder with 200 kilowatts, it's always going to be pretty thirsty. In this car, well, you're never going to really get under 10 litres to the 100, even if you're a really efficient driver, which can be devastating if you're frequently making long journeys in this car. So the 3 best things I like about this car have got to be its straight line pace with that 200 kilowatt engine, just how easy it is to drive around town with all the light steering controls, and obviously all the room that it's got for your family and your luggage. And the 3 worst things about this car would have to be the throttle response, with that gearbox that takes ages to choose the gear that it wants, and then the driving controls, because it's got Sportivo in its name, but it's not really a sporty setup. And the last thing I don't particularly like about this car is the cabin design, because it is one of Toyota's top of the range cars, but it's not a real special place to sit. So in conclusion, then, the 2007 Toyota Orion Sportivo is a sturdy, roomy and reliable family car with plenty of get up and go, but with that tedious power delay. So despite having Sportivo in its name, it doesn't really deliver the sportiest driving experience. So if you are looking at something a bit more sporty, then you can check out Threadcar's review of the Toyota GT86. Or if you're looking for a car with a more premium feel, you can check out Threadcar's review of the 2002 Audi A6 4.2. And if you like this review, feel free to check out Threadcar's YouTube channel and subscribe. That way we get a notification each time we make a new video. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.